What's up, everybody? We're live, and UConn is playing tonight, 9:30 at the Garden or so. You know that those are always per how these games go, and chances are we're going to get a crazy one with how wild and some of these games are all over the country. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about a bunch of things right now and get you ready for UConn Nova tonight. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to take a moment to say thank you so much for all the support you guys have given me throughout the year. It's been great. Really appreciate you guys. If you're listening for the first time, appreciate you. If you're one of my everydayers, double appreciate you because you ride with me every day, sometimes twice a day with the women as well. The women's pod will be out later today around 3:30. It's a good one. You don't want to miss it. But the men play tonight. They play, they got some unfinished business. The women are securely in the tournament, likely a 2 seed, which is a joke, and we'll get into that another day. But the men have other issues, obviously, kind of hanging on that 8 line in most of these bracketology situations. And it's not a great look. And I think they're coming into this tournament with just a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of gloves are off, if you will. This is not a team that is, there's no more time. Like there's no more, can't fiddle with rosters. You can't, maybe if we do this, or maybe if we do that, things will turn out differently. No, this team is in desperate need of some good play all around from everybody, and they're getting it. And it's on a 4-game win streak. And I think we're seeing some good resurgence from guys like Hassan Diarra, who's been hurt for most of the second half of the season. I think some of his health issues are now done. And the scary thing about tonight is, you play a Villanova team that's a really good three-point shooting team, and they're coached by a guy in Colin Neptune who is easily outmatched, by most of the coaches that he faces, including Dan Hurley. But that doesn't mean that they can't beat you. And the worst thing that could happen tonight would be for them to go into this game and throw in a stinker and either just kind of like lug through a win. I mean, granted, if we all agree that if they get a win, no matter how much they win by, we'll all be happy. But the one thing I will say is if they get a win and it's convincing, then that's narratives and that confidence, not only just the narrative from people like me and others in the media and maybe some bracketologists, but the confidence of this team. I've said this to a few friends that are on different chats and also some people that I've been talking to in college basketball circles, coaches, former players, etc. You just saw what happened to Cooper Flagg. I don't know if you did. If you didn't, he just turned his ankle. I don't know how serious it is. He looks like he's fine on the bench, but out for the rest of the game. There's no guarantees in life. So there's no inevitability of a team that if they lose specific players, they're not going to be as good. For example, we just mentioned one, Cooper Flagg. Auburn's had some time this year without John Broome, and they've lost a couple in a row. No team is infallible. Are there some really bad matchups for UConn once they get past the Big East tournament? Sure. But going into this tournament, if they ride this wave of momentum, of this 4-game winning streak, I truly believe that if they win the tournament, if they go on a run, not if they get to the final and lose a close game to Seton Hall or Marquette or someone or Xavier, but if they win it, then there's a legitimate shot of them defending their national championship. Legitimate. I didn't say it was inevitable. Legitimate. And the reason why I say this is not from a homer perspective. It's from teams like this that have veteran leadership, but they have younger guys that need to kind of believe that they can all come together and do this. if they win what would be now, we got 4 in a row, now 7 in a row. What's 6 more? They don't know. They're too stupid to realize that. I don't mean that in a negative way, but when you're young, anything is possible. And when you're old, anything's possible too. But it's just one of those things where momentum it's not tangible, and I know it's not something that you can really quantify. And I know there's plenty of people on the other side of that fence that would say to me, Mark, that's actually been proven to be wrong by ESPN's statisticians back in 2012 or some BS like that. True. That person also has never played sports. And so, as we've talked about in the past, when things are at their lowest points, and I've had plenty of low points in my life, you don't listen to people who have never been there. You just don't. You've never been involved in a high level, high stakes game. That to me is always the biggest denominator with that kind of stuff. So let's back to this game, Villanova. It's the trickiest one. I think it's the trickiest one of all of them. We match up great against Creighton, especially in a neutral site. Huge crowd advantage if we can get past this Villanova game. It's like I wanted the 3 seed to stay away from St. John's until the final. But it's just Villanova. It's a thorn in our side. We lose that game in Finneran, where Alex misses the free throws. And then Hartford, they play like crap. They have to come back. I was there for that. Great atmosphere down the stretch. Maybe that's over. But this team has those battle scars, and it's one of those things where I just don't know if they can do it. And I'm confident that they're going to win that game tonight. But it's a weird tip. My friend Chris Smith at Bad Choice Milk on Twitter, I believe he put out a stat that in this time slot in their history in the Big East tournament, they've been okay. They're 3-2 in this Thursday night 9:30 time spot. So it's not like it's like a 12 o'clock start and people are slow getting out of the gates and all that stuff. So we'll see. Not a lot of people are on right now because it's the middle of the day on a Thursday. I can't imagine, right? You're probably watching basketball and everything that comes with it. Here's what I will say about this game. I think they're going to switch on everything. I think that the matchup of Terrace Reed on Eric. This is another beautiful thing about what Dan Hurley's doing with his center position. Kind of all over the place. I'm sorry. The idea that my dumb idea that you should switch out Sampson and Terrace was not warranted. What I will say is Dan is smarter than us for this reason, because hold on. He's smarter than us for this reason. The game against Marquette, where Sampson played probably the best game of his career, and then followed it up with another great game against Seton Hall. Those are great matchups for Sampson. This is not a great matchup for Sampson. It's just not. It wouldn't surprise me if he plays a quick couple minutes and then they put Terrace in just to kind of get more body on Eric Dixon. So, what's that? A couple of games ago, everyone was worried about facing the men, the 4-5 game. Pick your poison. Yeah, no, I agree. I just think, Howard, that I'm not worried about it. It's just you play to whatever seed you get, and then the schedule's the schedule. I mean, hell, if Seton Hall won last night, you're gonna play them. It makes no difference. And we lost to them too. It's been such an upside down year. That's the reason why. It's not because no one fears Villanova, but you should fear a team that shoots 40% from three if you're UConn, because all of this, they don't defend the three wall stuff. Like they don't defend it well, but they also have been snake bitten. I mean, let's just be completely honest. But I think we've really talked through that ad nauseum. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about, is that, Nova has one of those games where they just are silly hot, and, it doesn't matter that Terrace Reed is wearing on Eric Dixon because Brickus and Wooga Poplar are going off, and others on the team are just deciding to have career games. So that's the only issue I have. But what I want to hear from the UConn fans in Store South is it's 9:30. You guys are going to have all day to get riled up for this game. Get after it. Have as much fun and be as loud as possible. Let these guys know that you are behind them 100%, that all of this BS from earlier in the year, 2 rings, Baldy. Thanks, Gary. I like that. Sorry, this was in the chat. I'm going to leave that up for a second. That all of this year's BS about Alex Caravan is this, and, we should be doing this in this lineup, and this guy should play, and this guy should play. Remember how good we have it. I haven't had a chance to do this yet, but at some point, maybe at the end of the year when there's more of time to be more reflect and have some perspective, UConn fans are spoiled, and that's okay. It's okay to be spoiled. But I will say, in being spoiled, sometimes you let the emotions get the best of us, and I'm no different than any of you guys. So what I will say is there's a great song, and I'm not going to give the artist because it's just stupid. But it's just a song called Better Days, and everything for UConn basketball has always come back around to better days. And that's literally the arc of the song. So no matter how mad you get, no matter how frustrated you get with this team, everything always circles back to better days. And William, you're 100% spoiled. Yes, you are. 1,000%. And so, but that's okay. Being spoiled is okay. It's like the Wall Street line. Greed. It's good. Don't worry about it. And that's the thing I will tell UConn fans is that no matter what happens in this game, in subsequent games the rest of the year, this UConn program is in great hands. They're doing just fine. Okay. Don't let outside noise bother you. I've had conversations with 40 I'm not going to, sorry. One of the comments just made me laugh really hard. Yeah, listen, would I love for UConn to come out and just boat race this team? Or as Little Bull puts it, I'm not going to say it out loud. If that's the case tonight, I'll be the happiest guy in the world. And we'll do a live reaction show at like midnight and get all riled up and everything that comes with it. But at that same time, I really do need there to be some patience with this team because this is postseason play now. Not everyone's been here. They just haven't. So we'll see how it goes. All right, quick break, and then we'll come back and close out the show. It's a very quick pod today because Daddy's got to do a bunch of stuff before more basketball comes tonight. All right, quick break there. All right, so some of these matchups, right? Let's look at what we got tonight. Well, first off, did anyone have an issue with Ed Cooley losing his mind over Sorber not winning Freshman of the Year and saying shame on the coaches? It's like as if they don't know that Liam McNeely is as good, if not better. What was that comment about? He did more nationally, like he was like scolding us about something. It was just a really weird, just a classic. Like every time I try to put the Ed Cooley stuff aside, like because when I think about this, guys, like whether I do like another Big East podcast, like outside of Locked On's podcast network, or do a full-time national show at some point, like where I'm talking about all of college basketball, can't just shit on every coach. But I mean, it's pretty easy to take Ed Cooley here to the woodshed, right? Thomas Sorber is a first-round pick. I doubt he stays unless Georgetown's NIL is super robust and they can throw him a ton of money. Chris made a comment. I'm going to get to him in a second. But it's just one of those things where I know he's a good coach. You could just throw it out there. Like when he was at Providence, he was tough, but it's just hard for me to not look at him as anything other than, as Chris just said here, having no loyalty. I really could care less about Providence fans. Like, I hope my buddy Lev gets a kidney, but that's about it. Like, I don't know any Providence fans. Never cared. Never, even when I lived in Connecticut, I never even thought Providence was a rivalry. Like, okay, they come, they beat us a couple times here and there, but like we were winning championships, getting to Final Fours. Like Providence was like, it just, they never really got into my rear view or even peripheral vision when it came to any of this stuff. And so, good school, like, don't get me wrong. Like if I was, and that's the thing is, like, before I got into any of this content creation or really having a social media presence, I didn't know Providence fans were the worst, as Neil said, because they are. Like for an opposing for the wife of a coach to sit up here and say Providence fans are douchebags, it's really, as she famously said one time on Field of 68, Andrea Hurley, our queen, it's really telling. It's not like a, it's not like she's just not like a throwaway comment. So she wasn't trying to stir things up. Yeah. This is the line. Thank you, Gary. You want to be a producer? Shame on our coaches for not recognizing that Thomas Sorber should have been Big East Freshman of the Year. I pray he comes back, because if he does, we'll be cutting down nets next year. I can guarantee you that and I'm saying this right now on March 13th at 2:02 p.m. because we're live and counting, 2:03. If Thomas Sorber comes back to Georgetown, they are not winning the Big East championship next year. It's just not happening. They're not good enough. Not good enough. So, this is a question. Can the Huskies go on a 14-game win streak? Is that what it would be if they wanted to win a three-peat? They're on a 4-game win streak right now. If they go 7, it would be a 13-game win streak. I don't think they've won 5 in a row, have they? Because they lost to St. John's. So late in the year. So it would be a 13-game win streak, G Money. I love that name. I love the Abbey too, by the way. That's not unrealistic. I mean, guys, I know Kemba Walker was on this team, but there's that UConn team in 2011 was left for dead, even though they were ranked like 19th in the country going into the Big East tournament, and had to win 5 games in 5 days. Let's say that again. 5 games in 5 days. If our history doesn't at least give you the confidence that they are capable of doing anything, then I don't know what team you're rooting for. What did William say here? Shouldn't Coach Cooley be giving McNeely his props? Of course. But you know what? I think some coaches take their opportunities to – he did say – I mean, listen, I'm not saying this is the right thing to say, but he did say, I'm taking nothing away from Liam McNeely. But it's kind of like saying, if you know me and I'm a huge Will Ferrell fan and of the movie Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, right? Where he said, well, all due respect, Mr. Dennett, but you're acting like a, and I forget what he says to him, but like in that movie, it's like, but I said all due respect. It's basically saying all due respect to Liam McNeely, but he's not that good. It was just such a weird, like, Ed doesn't know how to have these conversations in like a very media savvy way. He thinks he does. Ed really does think he's Dan Hurley in a certain way, right? Where he's, divine providence. I'm supposed to be here. Big John was my mentor, blah, 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 blah. And listen, that's powerful stuff, because I know, I know that what John Thompson has meant to a lot of coaches, especially a lot of African-American coaches. So I'm taking nothing away from Ed Cooley from that perspective, but he's just kind of an asshole. Like, if we're just being honest about it, like, and not in a fun way. Like, dude, if you're gonna be an a-hole to people, might as well, have some fun with it. I love the fact that he said, well, I'm rich. Like the richest coach in America that only won 7 games. Where we're like, that to me is funny. Like that, at least you're being funny and like, and being a little self-deprecating. Like when Dan calls the guy in Creighton Baldy, right? So yes, if you ain't first, you're last. All right, y'all, listen, I'm going to go. I'm going to get myself ready for the evening. I need to hydrate more. Like, guys, like this sickness has killed me. I am still drinking. I'm drinking like 1,000 of these, and I still can't like fully get back to 100%. I'm, very stuffed up. So I'm trying to still do the 2 shows a day. But it's pretty draining. So if I'm going to be awake at 9:30 tonight, your boy's going to jump off. I just wanted to come on and say I will say this. Drop your predictions in the chat here. We'll stay on for 2 more minutes. I think this game can go one of 2 ways. I think if UConn starts the way they did with the energy they did against Marquette, with the defense that they played against Seton Hall, then I think they win this game by more than the spread. It's a 6.5-point spread. If they allow Villanova to get comfortable the way they have allowed teams to get comfortable this year from the 3-point line. And that doesn't mean that we're talking about it doesn't I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. It doesn't mean that they allow people to just make incredible shots. Like that's just something that happens. But I'm talking about the way a team can get, like a great example is getting off to like a 11-2 start against Creighton at home, but letting Jemiah Neal hit a bunch of open threes and kind of get their team right back in the game. So those aren't the things you want to see tonight. What you want to see tonight is a team that comes out hungry and starts off playing good defense and hopefully get some easy buckets. Because if they can get some turnovers, get some fast break points, get some quick transition action, maybe some solo threes, some Liam downhills, a couple of alley-oops to Terrace or Sampson, and the gym is going to be rocking. I know Villanova's going to have some presence there too, but you got to think it's going to be at least 60-40 UConn, maybe 70-30. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go. Have a great rest of your evening. Go Huskies. I hope we pull out a win tonight, and if I am still awake, we will try to do a live reaction show. We're going to outro to the GOAT.
Go Huskies.